AirAutonomous, the story so far. You may or may not have noticed that before Christmas I started playing with a thought experiment. We've reached the point of having a virtual air management system. Here it is, here's my profile. See that manual reports, just remember don't file those VAM-A cards, that's what we want. But anyway, it shows us my last 10 flights, it puts them on a map, does all sorts of things. Now if you were on here, it would show your details as well. Sign up on the top right, I'll put the details below. What it allows me to do within my thought experiment area is book flights. Now I've laid out 25 football pitch size airfields, and now we're going to fly to Wasabi Worriedly Haunted. We'll talk about that again in a minute, but FP22 is football pitch 22. So we click on that to book it, and we can then book ourselves an aeroplane to take there. So we'll just take the first one off the list. That said T Dan, and we'll click that, and it'll all be jolly good. So right, there we are. Now, if this was bigger airfields, FXMK, my Hotlong's not all that big, there would be the proper weather information at the bottom here. If you're going between international airport and international airport, that would all be there. Anyway, that's by the by. So we've booked ourselves an aeroplane out, and we're going to take it. So there's a mission plan out. I've got the flight plan ready. Obviously, I've made that. Now I need to enter details in a thing called Sim ACAS. Now this is the communication widget that gets from X-Plane to the virtual airline management system. So FXMK, FB22, VFR. If I put a cargo number in there, we'll get paid for that amount of cargo. That's just a silly thing, but it might come into play in the future. Log into, and there, it knows I've booked that flight, and we're using VATSIM as the communication tool or link. Right, so there we go. Now I've played around with this before Christmas, and I've forgotten how I did it. So these flights, both these flights, the there and the back, you're going to see they're going to be fails. Not too big a fails, but it reminds me that I've got to get my head into each of these and plan them properly, and that would be an issue if you had a real air cargo business. People seem to be forgetting that. Now, what's the point of all this? Why am I doing this? Well, I'd like great minds to get together. Right, so click auto, off we'll go. You see it's a ragged takeoff, and I should have started that. So there we go. That is now it's talking. It's linking X-Plane to the virtual airline manager system, and all jobs are good, as they say. Jobs are good. Yeah, if lots of people get together and start thinking about what exactly is needed for drone delivery, then we're going to see. Now this is what happens. So if you choose to join for free, your flights will also show up on here, and we can also talk to each other on the radio. X-Plane's quite good at simulating radio range based on topography. So Lesotho being as bumpy as it is might be a bit of an issue, but that's cool. And some people simulate real flights, and there's controllers doing proper air traffic and all that sort of a thing. So it's that system that I want to use and abuse here for our purposes, to log flights, to see how aircraft use happens, how frequently they go into the hangar. If we try and deliver 20 kilos of cargo twice a week to each location, I would want to have 100 locations ultimately. I've only put in 25 because we've got to start somewhere. So there's 25 football pitch size landing areas here. There's a flight progressing in real time. 25 football pitch size landing areas, because I think VTOL's great. It's all super zhuzhy, but boxy aeroplanes are simple and they've been around for years. So what we've got here is a large scale beaver. This isn't full size, it's large scale, and we're imagining it's carrying 20 kilos even though it's empty there. Best that I should draw in a box there, really. So yeah, great minds think alike. If we all get together, start talking about it, if you've got an interest in drone delivery, then perhaps you can come and join in, and we can work on some open source tools. Some charities won't be able to afford whatever Amazon and Google and all the others come up with. They'll need tasking, they'll need tracking, they'll need all sorts of things. There's all manner of things, and and flying in simulated real terrain gives us radio issues as well, or we have to find ways of solving those radio issues. In fact, that's what the video I've been trying to make for the last week's all about. We need to put a high altitude craft here, so if someone's flying something at 45,000 feet, then they'll be able to communicate with everybody flying within Lesotho, or be, if you will, a data relay, because that's what we really need. But let's unpack that somewhere else. Need to set up a forum really, or something like that. So we're going to descend down into the next valley. You might get, there's a landing area on the left hand side. There it is, just off the nose now, that green area. And this is where this one starts falling apart, because somewhere in here, where I was fiddling around with sorting out this video, back and forth between all these screens and stuff like that, I clicked the wrong button. And it's going to start unpacking as we go to waypoint 5 here. Somehow, I don't know what I hit on the keyboard, but I hit RTL. So, so it's going back now. And this did actually unpack a little bit of what might happen in the real world. You would have an operator monitoring the aircraft, or you'd have to have fantastic systems on board that, should something untoward happen, it makes a sensible decision. So that's a job for a companion computer, I think. But in this case, I'm the companion computer, so I go for a restart mission. That doesn't work, because look, that's it going back to waypoint 1, that orange line there. So let's try resuming the mission. So there's a waypoint down there on the right, waypoint number 5. Let's go there. Let's turn towards that. That all seems good. Oh dear, now what else have I done? Because now it wants to turn around and head back to number 1. That's not so good either. That's not getting the job done. Still got our 20 kilos of cargo on board, of life-saving equipment we've got to get in there. So my last resort was to just load the mission again, because obviously I've done some multiple key presses that weren't good, going between the views and this software. And then we'll write those back up and have a look. And then we need to restart. It won't help, which I did anyway, but we'll resume it. And hopefully this time, well, of course I know the outcome because I've done this earlier. But yeah, on the resumption now. But what it's left me is way too high, which I kind of didn't realise. And also I'd forgotten how I had made the approaches before. So you've got to be... Unfortunately, you can't get flaps and things to automatically deploy with X-Plane and software in the loop at the moment, but hopefully that will change to make the entire flight more automated. And remember, these aircraft aren't very well tuned, so one of the things, or one of the sort of people I need is people that are really expert at tuning things to get them properly sorted. Then we need to get people that are clever with the flight planning side of things to get in and out of here and consider these valleys and consider the go-around situation. And that's what... So all that little escapade there, which was all due to my own finger trouble, is exactly what a companion computer could have been doing. Now, it does look like I was trying to draw something rude there, doesn't it? But I wasn't. So it is all what a companion computer could be doing. One computer doing the actual flying, looking after the aeroplane, and the other computer, if you will, doing the thinking. And that's kind of where autopilots are going now, which is great. I'm not quite sure I like the word companion computer. I think I'd prefer a co-pilot, perhaps would be a better term. Now, this is going to go further wrong here because, as I mentioned just now, we are too high. Why am I bothering quite so much, or being... we're in simulation, so I could just reset the whole thing. But dear old the virtual airline manager system, if I did that, that would flag it up as a crash. And remember, we mentioned a little bit of money earlier. I'd lose a little bit of money, and not only that, the aircraft goes into the hangar, and me as the admin would have to release the aircraft at a given time after some imaginary fixing. So that's quite cool and quite interesting. Obviously, because I'm Billy No Mates and it's only me flying around at the moment, I haven't had to face too much of that. So I'm pushing on. We've got to land at our place. I still haven't. I think at this point, as I was making this, I was thinking, oh, we still might just get in. Who knows? And I was letting it go. But there's the flare. No, there's no way. We're way too high. Landing on the diagonal, obviously that's the longest way to land on a football pitch, either diagonal. But if we were sensing the wind and the thing was taking that into account, then perhaps it would have chosen a different approach. And that, again, is something that needs to be worked on and thought about, automating the whole process properly. So in a minute, I can see I'm going to hit these huts, so we're going to give up. Now, this location in Lesotho sort of, as along with the other 25 that I've put in, highlights kind of why I think What 3 Words is quite cool, and that highlighting is all about 75% of the world doesn't have an address, including this area. So this would at least get us close, and the people at What 3 Words are making the apps in local languages as well. They're doing it for here in Zulu, for us just around here, because our ambulance services are beginning to use it to get people into areas without addresses. So you'll have to excuse the landing, ladies and gentlemen. Fasten your seatbelts, please. I'm just going to extinguish the smoking lights, and welcome to FP22. Did I say football pitch? FP is football pitch 22. Hold on now. Yes, a bit of a thud that. So right, we're there. And what the virtual airline management system requires now is that we tell it that we're there. So we just stop the log there, and obviously we have to go back. I don't know why this is in lower resolution, but we've got to book our return flight, as it were, because there we are. That's where we are now. If you don't fly back, that's where you'll be. So you'll have to fly yourself back from wherever you've left yourself. And if you leave an aeroplane if you jump out now and go home, or switch it, you are at home. You're on your home computer. But if you just log out of the system, not only will you be at this landing area, FP22, but so will the aircraft. And you notice also the aircraft's status goes down. So that goes down to a point until it has to go back into the hangar for repairs. So that, again, is something I'd like to look into. So the flight home is AirAutonomous 011. And we do as we did before, but we're going the other way. We pull in the route and we take off and go home in time for tier medals. So again, we need people that can flight plan, people that can consider this booking side of things as well. And I haven't even started thinking about the actual cargo part of it, because so we've got aeroplanes from big to small. This is the smallest. I have made up, in my fantasy world, in my fantasy football league, there are aircraft large to small. The large aircraft I consider being flown by Aurora Flight Sciences Alias system. That is basically a robot that sits and does the driving. Not quite how it works yet, but that is where it's going. Right, here we go. So you can see it's an awful takeoff. Another thing that needs to be refined, along with the thing actually turning itself in the right way into wind. The guys at Zipline have kind of got it right in a lot of ways. I've got a lot more respect for them now than I had before. Now watch this, it'll be a terrible takeoff. I know what happens. I did this earlier. There we are. But anyway, we're going to fly down this valley here, and then we're going to get ourselves a little bit of altitude, keeping a flap on just so we get up there quicker, and then we turn right and run up the next valley to get ourselves back over the ridge. There we go, and back over that top ridge, and then down the other side. Yeah, Zipline have kind of got it right, because they own the takeoff and landing, so they know exactly what's going to happen with that. It's happening at their facilities. All they have to do, I'm making that sound simple, and it obviously isn't, but is drop their cargo via parachute at the hospital and then come home. They don't take anything back, so it's a one-way journey only. Again, this would be taking stuff in and bringing stuff back, at this case with a 20 kilo load. You're going to see where this one falls apart in a minute. So it's a thought experiment. how will we do it? How could we do it? What do we need? How do we make all of that open source so that smaller charities can afford to be in the emergency delivery supply game? So if you've got your own aircraft that you've designed and it's a delivery drone and it can lift at least 20 kilos and you've flown it, then bring it along. Let other people have a go at flying it, and we can try it in this simulated environment. And simulated environment in which, because of Mission Planner, we can bring ADS-B traffic in. If we're all talking on the inbuilt radio system, we're bringing our own air traffic in, and we're bringing communication not just in an aviation sense, but also in a thinking about how to do things in a drone delivery way as well, between people, and that would be very, very cool. So that's what I'd like to have. I'd like the conversation to be framed within actually trying to do flights within simulation, because I think that will focus the mind a lot better than just doing it on paper. I'll be honoured if you join us. Again, click through to the link at the bottom and we'll sort you out. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to join us 2100 GMT every Tuesday for our weekly hangout and chat of nonsense. And yeah, that's me now reporting the flight. And then you've also got a little logbook in this as well, which you can then upload that flight data. I'll get an email when you do that, and then I'll click through to say, yeah, the flight's approved. Thanks very much. See you on